Hello, hello, hello. Wow, this is such an amazing turnout. Thank you all for coming. My name's Andrew Berardini. I'm going to be your moderator for today. I'm a writer, mostly out of Los Angeles, although I did come from Hong Kong to be with you all today. I don't know if I think I'm the only person in the universe that went from like Hong Kong to Pioneer Town. I mean, but like I'm rarely unique in that way, but I'll take it. Today we're going to talk to some really incredible artists about their dreams, their visions, why they came to the desert, what they found when they got here. Clearly you guys are all here, so you know how wildly inspiring this landscape can be. And I mean, when I think of the desert out here, like maybe my dreams begin with Agnes Pelton as a kind of a patron saint. But there have been many artists, Noah Purifoy, Andre Zattel. I even like made a list to make sure that I wouldn't forget like some of the amazing artists that live out here. I mean, Julie Alt, Julia Hayward, Jennifer Belandi, Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs, who's
Agnes Martin.
The husband of Carolyn is on our panel, if I can characterize you as such, Rye. But some really amazing artists have made a life, a home, a workout here. And so we're going to chat with these humans today. First, they're going to introduce themselves, and then we'll get a conversation going. But thank you again all for being here. It's really special to share this glorious landscape and this wonderful art fair with you. Do you want to start?
Thank you, Andrew. It's really a pleasure to be here. And are we just introducing ourselves?
Yeah. Maybe it's like introduce yourself and like tell the story of what you do to somebody who's never seen it. You know, paint them a word picture.
So my name is Gisela Colón, and I'm originally from San Juan, Puerto Rico. I grew up on the island, went to university in Puerto Rico, and about 30-something years ago, after I arrived from Puerto Rico into Los Angeles, I drove down to the south of Palm Springs, and the car kept on going down Highway 111 until it got to the very end. I remember getting out of the car and looking at the mountains and feeling this incredible, overwhelming sense of connection that I felt growing up in Puerto Rico in the mountains there. And now years later, I have a studio in Palm Springs, and I'm a sculptor, I'm a painter, and I'm really energized by this kind of shedding of the skin that I've experienced here in the desert.
Yeah. So you're like talking to a blind person on the phone. How do you describe what you do?
I make work that is connected to geography and geology and operates with light. I make sculptures that have structural color, that shift according to the time of the day, the environmental light, the position of the viewer, and they're inspired by nature. And structural color is present all throughout the world, you know, in the natural world, the back of a scarab beetle, iridescent nacreous shells, the feathers of an amazing tropical bird. So I make work that basically connects to the natural world and speaks that language of energy coming from the earth.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan, you're up.
Thanks. Hello. Can everybody hear me? You'll have to excuse my voice. I've been talking for like 24 hours straight.
No, that's like a good cowboy gristle. Like you really feel like a desert cowboy right now.
That's what happens to your voice when you live and move to the desert. It gets all rugged. I'm Ryan Schneider. I thanked you all for being here. This is amazing. I didn't realize it would be so many people. I'm a sculptor. I live in Joshua Tree, like on the border of Yucca Valley and Joshua Tree. I grew up in Indiana, kind of out in the cornfields outside of Indianapolis. And I was been a painter my whole life. So I lived in New York City from 2002 to 2015 and only was painting, not thinking about sculpture, or thinking about it, but never had made a sculpture. And then my wife and I came out here to get away from a New York winter in 2015. We came planning to stay for 3 months, and we've been here for 11 years now. Yeah, we were like, are we really going back? But long story short, I started making sculpture here in 2019. So I switched my practice from, I was sort of painted into a corner and not having a very good time making paintings. So I started trying wood sculpture, and I thought it would be something I just did once or twice, and it's become my entire practice. So I make wood sculptures with a chainsaw. Some of them are painted, some are gold leaf, some are burned black. I also do bronze sculpture that are cast from my wood sculptures, and I make stone sculpture as well. And there's one out here in the front of the fair, if you're walking by it, made from Mexican onyx on a pedestal made from cedar. And what else? Is that about it?
Yeah, just if somebody has never seen it and you want them to see it, what would you tell them? What poetry would you whisper in their ear?
Yeah, and my work is also like Gisela, like very connected to like earth energies, sort of the spiritual ether of the desert, but also just in general. It's very intuitive. There are faces that are sort of reminiscent of masks, figures, figural. I'm inspired by, everything from modernism like Brancusi, Henry Moore. I love Murau's sculptures, all the way to, various forms of indigenous art and carving from all over the world. And it all just sort of distills down and comes out in a really intuitive way while I'm working. I think that feels good. Okay, thanks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phillip K. Smith III. It is awesome to see so many people out here and so many familiar faces. It's like we should do this more often. So I moved out to the desert from Los Angeles in 1980 to Palm Desert and grew up out there. After high school, went to RISD. I have a bachelor's in architecture and a bachelor's in fine art, and it was kind of those worlds coming together in my work. But being in New York and Boston, really missing seeing the horizon line. All those damn trees were in the way, and just really missed the brown mountains. And it felt like I could start making work in a more serious way, and I wanted to do that in a place that I cared about, and that was the desert. But even with that said, I started coming back to the Palm Springs area in late 2000. I thought maybe I'll just be here for 3 months, maybe 6 months. Similar to you, Ryan, it's been 26 years. I wouldn't live anywhere else. I'm a light-based artist. I would say that the thread through all of my work is light and change. And I would say that that's also what the desert is entirely about, is light and change, all at different paces. Right? There's the pace of the day and the movement of the sun. There's the pace of the seasons. When I did Lucid Stead, an installation on my 5 acres way out in Joshua Tree, the end of Sun Fair back in 2013, I think the week before I was going to open, there was a flood there. And there hadn't been a flood through there in 10, 15 years. So there's a whole other geological scale to pace and time and experience. I think that all of that comes together in my work. Being in the desert, you're surrounded by amazing natural light phenomena every single day. From Palm Desert, from my studio and where I live with my wife Lisa, who's here, we get to look at the Little San Bernardino Mountains that separate the lower desert from Joshua Tree National Park. And those mountains shift from a monochromatic silhouette to a highly textured three-dimensional surface twice a day, once at dawn and one at dusk. And I think that it was only natural that, the kind of sublime beauty that exists there became part of my work. Like looking at the ephemerality and the perfect gradient of the sunset, how can I hold the sunset and share that? So ultimately, the explanation of my work is light and change, but I use a variety of materials to achieve that, whether that's fiberglass and carbon fiber or acrylic through LEDs and electronics, mirror polished stainless steel, glass, a whole variety of materials and scales. I've had the opportunity to create very intimately scaled work and very large-scaled work from the desert to the south of Sardinia. And so I think really my work is about holding the sunset and about holding and sharing the beautiful light and shadow of the desert.
That's nice. My name is Rocklen. Oh, I mean it. I was somewhat hypnotized with that description, and I'm like, wow. Okay, so I moved. My desert story. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Andrew, and my cohorts. Started, well, with my great mentor and friend, Andrea Zettel. I was part of a couple high desert test site experiences here in the desert, and obviously what a place. I'm from LA, I was there my whole life, and then in 2016 I had this realization that I had a bunch of trophy modern furniture in storage. So that's a furniture line I started that's made entirely of trophy parts. And for a number of reasons, the project grew to immense proportions, and I ended up with like a ton of it in storage. So I had a big storage bill, and I had this realization in 2016 that I could buy a house in Joshua Tree and the mortgage would be less than the storage bill in LA. And so that was a real eureka moment, and my wife and I, Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs, who's an insanely incredible artist who's done performances here in the desert as well with HDTS, and she's doing things in LA with the LA Philharmonic. Anyway, so we looked and we found this cute house in Joshua Tree Village, and we bought the house, and then we put all the trophy furniture in there, and it was wonderful. And then fast forward 2020, we had a baby. He was born February 12th. We moved to the desert. A month after he was born, thinking maybe we'll just get away from LA and wait for the pandemic to settle down. And then within a few months, we realized this was our new home. And obviously, the desert sensibility is continuing to creep in. All the things that Phil and Ryan and Gisela said were true. I think one thing for me, the time-based nature of this place is so important, and it's always been something that I feel like has been part of my work. I'm often working with found objects. I feel like I look to cast away objects and things that maybe we've taken for granted and almost don't see anymore. I use those as the foundation for making work. So I realized in 2014, and I was in fact my own found object. So I cast my entire wardrobe in porcelain, which kind of set me on this journey with ceramics. And then since I've been out here, I made these works. I felt like that were inspired by my kid, where I was making, I made a series of tiles from single sheets of toilet paper and paper towel. So you can see all those beautiful textures that maybe you take for granted in these tiled mosaic pieces. So I think since I've come to the desert, my work, it's desert inspired, but also it's becoming more ceramic based practice, just due to kind of my new studio situation, and yeah, what a sense of community and wonderful place to be. So anyway.
That was beautiful, guys. Thanks so much. I mean, and you guys already sort of alluded to it, but I want to maybe build a bit. Like, when I think of the desert out here, I've had this theory that those who chase the sun across the plains, they hit the coast too hard and bounce back into the desert. And the landscape here is hard to ignore. As you come out of Los Angeles, you see the windmills, making the landscape literally electric as you pass by it. And being here, many of you guys talked about the light, but the topography of this place is, of course, natural, but it is also human. So in some ways, the desert has a beauty that's so obvious. How do you work in concert with it? How do you work against it? What cliches are you rejecting or resisting, being artists that work in this topography?
Mountains are really meaningful to me. I think I was a mountain in a past life. I think I was a rock. And mountains started as a source of strength for me when I grew up in Puerto Rico. And I was surrounded by a lot of conflict, aggression, gun violence as a child. And nature became my source of solace and sustenance. So we lived on a farm in Bayamón, and I would run outside when I get upset around 8, 9, 10 years old, and I would peel the bark of a eucalyptus tree, and I would marvel over how the tree, I would come back a day later, and that tapestry of color had healed itself and created its own kind of renewed sense of life. And it was an early lesson in the power of geography, geology, the power that comes out of the earth. And that is a cliche that I work with, not against, in the sense of the desert. And mountains became, I identified with them in Puerto Rico because El Yunque rainforest was this incredible, almost like a basalt monument that full of, organic life, but the strength that I got from identifying, how as a child you play games with your mind for survival or for psychological reasons, becoming a mountain represented strength that humans couldn't hurt me. And when I came to the desert 30 years ago, I felt that same sense of connection with the geology, with the mountains and the rocks, because I thought, okay, here's a source of strength. And I really believe in hot spots and energy spots that come out of the earth. And I feel like here in the desert in California, you get that same sense of life energy coming out of the earth that you can tap into, not only just mentally, but physically. And so that nurtures my practice a lot. That whole sense of energy coming out of the earth and being able to use it for transformation and rebirth, which is what I've done in my practice over the years. I always say that I've had many different lives, like a snake that sheds its skin. And you become new again. And the desert for me was another sense of rebirth. I'd been painting as a child, painting in the 90s, painting in the 2000s, and then became a sculptor in 2012 and have been sculpting for the past decade or so. And when I built a studio out here in the desert, then I felt like I became reborn, tapping into that energy and started painting again these black geological paintings, which are kind of a combination of meteorite, extraterrestrial dust that falls, and volcanic rock. And so anyway, for me, the desert has always represented that sense of tapping into the geography and the geology, and because our planet Earth is really the only place that we know of that has life force in the universe at this point. And so tapping into that chi or that energy is really crucial.
Beautiful, thank you. Can I get one of you fellas to respond?
I think Gisela just said everything I wanted to say.
Well, part of the question is also, what are the cliches that you resist? How do you fight against this overwhelming beauty, or sometimes it's easy as an artist in this environment, I can imagine, to become one with the nature that surrounds you, but and then export it, a vision of it to the world. But on the contrary, there are desert art cliches, or even desert cliches. And how do you deal with that? Do you even care? Is it something you think about?
I can quickly. When I came out from New York, it was the first morning we were here. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna set myself up a little studio, right outside. And I started painting, and it was immediately I was like, oh, I'm already doing things here that I wouldn't be doing in my studio in Brooklyn. I was just the difference in the landscape, the way the air felt, the space around me, the color, the sunset, sunrise colors. And so, it had an immediate effect on my painting practice. And I remember it was the third day we were here. I had been working on this painting, and the paint was this thick. And then I was just standing there looking at it, and a little dirt devil came through, and just boom, the painting just went face first into the dirt and was totally ruined. And I think that was it wasn't ruined. I worked with it. But that was a really teaching moment for me of living out here, working out here. You have to work with nature and roll with the punches and work with the mistakes and the accidents. And, this is a place where it can be sunny in the morning, and by 3 p.m, your house is flooded, or there's a mudslide comes through your front door because of a torrential rain, or a windstorm takes your roof off or blows down whatever you just were working on in your yard. So you kind of have to work with that chaos energy. There's like, it'll be like the most serene energy, and then it'll be chaos like instantly here. And just echoing what Gisela was saying quickly, like the earth energies here really have an effect on my work. As a painter, I definitely had some desert imagery I would incorporate. My paintings were very like modernist inspired, but I would definitely had some series with some cactus and flora and fauna featured, but I tried not to get too into it because I wanted to avoid the cliches, you know? I didn't want it to be too quote unquote deserty. But now the organic shapes of everything really finds its way into my sculptural forms. And then I'm working with materials that literally come out of the earth here. Like the stone I use comes from the border of Mexico and California out of the earth. The wood I use comes from Northern California or from the San Diego area. So I'm literally working with the materials that form here.
I love thinking of nature as forcing you to be its collaborator in your work.
Yeah, it's a co-collaboration with nature for sure. You have to work with it out here in your work and in your life, or you're not going to last long because it's never going to cooperate the way you want it to.
And Phillip, I mean, you're the veteran here. You've been in and out of this desert for 46 years. If I did my math correctly, you said 1980. Sorry, I didn't mean
Thanks.
to out you.
I'll take veteran though, but that's fine. No, yeah, you have to accept the dust, right? I think that the desert, what's beautiful about the desert is it's the place where the cliches like fall away and show their shallowness. You know, I mean, the place is so bold that like at the second you start taking on the reality of the place, like all the small stuff falls away pretty quickly. You realize like what is a real idea and what's really core about you. But in a way, I'd say like for millennia, people have walked out into the desert to have that experience, right? The desert has always been a place where there's a clean slate. You're getting away from another place. For all of us, we've sort of found a home here. But when you walk out into the desert, it's reconnecting with everything that is bigger than you. And I think when you step out into a canyon and anything man-made is now gone, and it's just you and this world that's been here for millions and millions of years, the scale of that place, you start to see your place in it, your hierarchies begin to realign, you reestablish what's really important in your life. That's the power of the desert, that's the beauty of the desert. And so living here, I mean, it's sort of like can be a daily experience of realignment. My studio's in Palm Desert. I'm kind of in the middle of like an industrial area, but I can get in the car and 5 minutes later I'm back in a canyon and there's nothing man-made visible anywhere. So sometimes you have to go out and seek it and get into it. It's a bit more raw and immediate up here in the high desert, which is why all of us love coming up here. I mean, I'll say that for as many years as I've been coming up here, still to this day, every single time you drive from the low desert and like crest over into Yucca Valley, it's like you just feel everything falling away. Like all the worries, all the little stuff, all the bullshit is just gone. And your eyes open up, your ears open up, and you sort of are taking in the beauty. I think beauty, I would say beauty is not at all a cliche. It's a word that, unfortunately, I'd say is somewhat despised or misunderstood in the art world. I will say I am all in on beauty. I'm really interested in universal beauty and the things that make all of us like step out of our homes and to look at the sky and to want to share that with somebody. We've all done that. And there's a reason there, and it's common amongst all of us. I think the desert showcases those kinds of beautiful, connective, binding moments across humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, you are killing it, Phil. So I was... Yeah, I think for me, as you can probably tell, the cliches of the desert haven't quite come into my practice, although I think in some ways, like when I was in LA, I was always finding things by the side of the road and celebrating them through various means of materiality, like casting these objects in aluminum or tiling them in fiberglass and tile. And then coming out here, I think one thing I was always so interested with the things I found in LA was how time was embedded in the objects. So for example, I had a window curtain that I had turned into a sculpture that had the imprint of the window frame in the window curtain from all the days of sunshine going through the window. And I feel like you come out here and that is evident in every surface everywhere. Just this sense of time embedded in the objects and in the landscape. And and again, it's the geologic time. That's the, like in LA, you're like, oh, the buildings from the 50s or the 40s, and then you come out here and you're like, that rock is, God knows, like millions of years it's been sitting there. I should know more about, but it's wild, and then. It kind of keeps you on task in terms of its appreciation. Like I was running around last night with the many wonderful events going on, and I was stressed out about getting there on time, and I was just like, dear God, just relax, man. You're driving in Pipes Canyon. It's like it's really you can't not like kind of bow down.
I mean, right, you like preambled the thought, next question I was having, which is on making in time, and I feel like you've addressed it, but the writer Amos Oz, he said, when men talk of always and forever, the rocks in the desert are laughing at them. And you brought up a notion of time, but like how the heat slows things down, geologic time has its own stretch. How does like time, both in like another emanation of topography, but also like in your own work, how has it changed being here versus other places as art workers?
Well, for me, the desert does something which is remind me of my own mortality. It never ceases to happen that when I'm all of a sudden coming from Los Angeles and I make that bend, I think about that I'm mortal and I'm going to die. And I know it sounds shocking, but that realization of death is what causes this jolt in me to make different work. Because we're talking about time scales, and the human time is so short in terms of a time scale compared to geological time, the time the planet's been around 4.6 billion years. And then if you go back to deep time, cosmic time, billions and billions of years, and there's something about the desert, the rocks, everything. Like you're saying, right, you should know the age of the rocks. You don't need to know it to know that we're just living in the blink of an eye, and that those rocks have been here time immemorial, when the planet was forming. And so for me and my work, it's slowed down. My work has always been about perception, but like actually making these black paintings is slowing down time for me, because I have to stand in front of the painting and spend a much longer period of time examining every nuance of how the matter gets deposited, what kind of geography I'm creating, and then it absorbs light and they reflect light back at you, but in a much slower speed, because it's basically bowing to the matter itself that is coming from the desert. And that slowing of time is, it's fucking amazing. And I think that that's why we're all here, because we're searching for something like the sublime, and the sublime is really a state in which time is slowed down, and all of a sudden you have awareness of breathing, and your heart is pumping, and you're alive. And just in that one moment of awareness where you can quiet out all of the noise of society, that's when you're really alive and you're really living. And it's a very short time. So anyway, we love the desert for all those reasons.
Man, you guys are good. I'm learning right now how to talk better. Time out here, I remember the first time I came out here, before we moved out here, we went into Joshua Tree National Park for the first time, and they give you a handout, like a little informational booklet or whatever when you go in. And I opened it up, and the first thing I read was that like these piles of rocks back here and all the piles of rocks in the Joshua Tree National Park in this area are formed by volcanoes that like erupted underground, and the lava never came up to the surface. And so it just was stuck underground in these pockets and then cooled. And then the earth eroded and left them as these piles of rocks. And I just remember reading that and being like, holy shit. Like, I didn't even know things like that happened, like that. But it also speaks to time. It's like the volcanic eruption was millions of years ago. The erosion takes thousands and thousands of years to happen. And then there's these things that are so integral to the landscape of the desert, of this particular desert, in the Joshua Tree, in the Morongo Basin, that are just like these natural time-based sculptures, And in my own work, it's true what everyone's saying. It's coming from New York City. I lived there for 13 years, and I just was like going constantly, just like everybody else there. And waking up the first morning here was like, I saw like the snow on Mount San Jacinto and a huge Joshua tree in the yard of the place we were staying, and just like, I just stopped. It made me stop. It was an immediate visceral like pause, and hearing things and smelling things and seeing a little rabbit, just like your senses are so heightened out here because of the quietness and the space, that as an artist or as a human being, but as a creative person, you're just absorbing so much in this different way. And in my own work now, working with the stone that I work with primarily is this onyx that is made from layers and layers of sediment that is deposited at the bottom of like a river or a creek over thousands of years. So it's literally like a time scale in the rock itself that I'm sculpting, which is pretty, you're not always thinking about it, but then you're like working and you're like, holy shit, I'm like handling this material that is took hundreds of thousands of years to form. It's like a real honor to work with it.
Boy, I think just having time means that you can spend more time with the things that are in front of you. And, being in the desert, off and on for 46 years, just means that I've seen that many more sunsets and that many more dusty days, and, the blacktip seagulls going to the Salton Sea, flying in a figure eight across the desert. I mean, all kinds of pelicans, I should say, going out to the Salton Sea. And I think just being able to spend time in the same place just means that you are seeing deeper. You're seeing things that other people don't see. And if it's happening in a place that you love, it just means that you are, you're just becoming more and more connected to that place. And I'm going to say something really cheesy, and I'm sorry, Lisa, but that's my wife, is like, I was trying to think about time. I mean, my wife and I will have been married for 19 years in May. Like, we love each other on the day we got married, and it's now 19 years later. Like, the love is obviously clearly still there, but it's 19 years of experience, and there's a deepening and an understanding that wasn't always there 19 years ago. It's just being able to spend time with someone that you love in a place that you love means that it becomes part of you, it becomes part of your soul, part of your identity. It's like the number one question I get asked when people come to the studio is like, do you stay here during the summers? It's like, yeah, I live here. And, I love the summers. Like no one's here and it's quiet. And I think that, part of the beauty of the desert is that sense of time that exists in all of our studios, right? Like when you open up the door to the studio, time kind of changes for all of us that are creators. You kind of get lost in that space, and you want to happily be lost in that space. For I think the people that are not artists and not creators, I think they get a hint and a taste of that being out here in the desert. That time slows, and you are seeing and hearing in a different way than you ever did before.
In some ways, Phil, you brought up my question that I've been saving for the end here, which really meaningful to me, which is the company of others. And like out here in the high desert, there's its own social ecology. Artists who live here year-round, those who come and go. The towns themselves have their own sort of deep stories. What makes the community of artists coalesce out here? What pulls artists together in a place defined by so much open space and distance?
That's a great question, Andrew, because I was just thinking we've been talking so much about time, which is an essential aspect of this landscape, but also, of course, then there's space. And I think since me moving here in 2020, I realized like it was a little bit like being in LA in the early 2000s, where you could find a funky retail space in a strip mall for a few $100s to rent, and which is no longer true in LA, but here in the desert you can. And so when I moved out here, I felt like it was also up to me to kind of contribute to the community, because we all need to find things to do. I mean, it's an amazingly wonderful place, but at times, especially with a child, I'm like, okay, what are we going to do today? Go to the park? You know, so it felt important to kind of make things to do for friends and I. So when I first moved out here, and this is a little promotion as well, because I started a gallery called Quality Coins, and so that was a really wonderful opportunity to meet artists, to have a reason to go to their studios. We showed a lot of incredible artists here in the desert and some in LA. And now Ryan Schneider and I have co-curated Quality Coins room, which is here in room 19. So we're showing a lot of the artists that I've worked with over the years, and then Brian brought in some amazing artists as well. But anyway, so space, I was thinking, like there's so much space here, and it feels like there's people doing all sorts of really amazing things with Yucca Valley Material Lab or Compound YV, and I mean, even, you know, the French brothers and the things they're doing, like we're all like in this together. And
I mean, Rai, you mentioned Andrea Zattel being a mentor, and
and
her work at high desert test sites and many other projects she's done out here. I've been coming here as an art writer for 20 odd years, and yeah, like Andrea brought people out here, brought people together out here, and I know that like many of the new projects you're mentioning or newer projects that you're mentioning do something similar.
Yeah, no, thank you. Andrea is, again, the reason for the season for me in terms of the desert, and the things she's done, it's remarkable. And High Desert Test Sites still, to this day, is putting together some amazing programs and the residencies. And I feel like she is the kind of the template. And I did it in my own little part where it's like, she's bringing in, High Desert Test Sites is bringing in artists from around the world to come stay with her. And then it's like, it's water. Water flows through this place. Maybe you could say artistic blood flows to and from this place. And I feel like that's an essential nature, as it kind of, things keep moving through. And so I feel like, in part, that's what I've been trying to be a part of as well.
Gisela, what do you think of the community of artists you are part of and forming here? You know,
I've been here less than a year, so to speak, with my studio, and I felt a big difference from Los Angeles. And I'm going to compare it to a recent experience I had in Puerto Rico, where I participated in La Gran Bienal Tropical. So it's this tropical biennial that's an anti-biennial. And you basically all the artists are invited to create a work in the mangroves in Loíza, Puerto Rico, which has a very a long indigenous history of ecology, of connecting to the land. And the sense of community that developed in that one 24-hour period was crazy, because all the artists collaborated, worked together. It wasn't competitive. They were just trying to make sense of the world and to connect with nature. And I mean, all these good things came of it. And I can compare that experience to my experience here in less than a year, where everybody, there's a lowering of anxiety, and it's not like the stress of the white cube and the pressure cooker of the endless cycle of the art world that's in the big cities. All of a sudden you're out here and people tend to want to connect on a human level, and the artifice goes away. That's how I could describe it. Like all this BS of like, who are you? Where do you come from? Nobody cares. It's all about being human and connecting with your humanity, and a lot of that stressor just doesn't exist. So for me, in less than a year, I go, God, I just really has been such a positive communal experience, and I'm just starting to build my network of friends. But right here in the audience, I see a whole bunch of people that I've met, in less than a year, that I already count as good friends, close friends, people that you can just share part of your life with, in whether it be art, whether it be nature. Anyway, it's just really a rebirth for me.
Hi. I second that. I mean, coming from New York, I was so social. My studio was in Bushwick, and all my friends' studios were within 2 or 3 blocks, so we were always around each other. And then you're just like drinking and talking and exchanging ideas and studio visits and crits, and then going to everybody's openings every weekend. And by the end of my time in New York, I felt really just like I was kind of doing the same thing every week, going to the same places, seeing the same people. I felt pretty stale. And when we came out here, we met some great people straight away, and just were like sitting around a campfire, like actually looking people in the eye and talking, and like grilling food and just talking about life instead of like, oh, what gallery are you with, and who bought this, and it was like so refreshing to like reconnect with people just on a human level. And then when we decided to stay and started to make friends here, like there's an amazing community of artists, an amazing community of people here. Some aren't artists, but amazing artists and people who own shops and restaurants and activists and people who are devoted to like protecting the land out here. It's just an incredible group. And then also going down to Palm Springs, there's amazing collectors in Palm Springs and institutions, and there's a lot of like cross-cultural or cross-pollination there, people coming up and visiting studios. And there's Desert X now, and of course High Desert Test Sites. There's just so many beautiful things happening here, and it's like really organic, but super pro at the same time. It's not just like everybody just like lollygagging in the desert doing nothing. It's like hardcore shit. But it's done with an ethos of play that you don't really find everywhere else. Like people really want to play and let their minds wander out here. And I'll say this too, just it is cool living out here, and then I'll go for a show or an art fair. I'll go to New York or Paris or Brussels or LA. Of course, I go to LA all the time, and I feel like I can slide right in and like dip in, have great conversations, feel the energy of that city, and then come back out here and like shake it all off and be in the silence again.
I think we should start making bumper stickers that say hardcore shit, and everybody you'll just know. That guy's real.
Hardcore shit in a low-key way.
That's right. I don't know, yeah, I think that there's, like in the desert, feels like there's more of an openness and a kindness and a willingness to share, sort of like we're all in it together to survive the desert. I mean, even though it's all been quite kind to us, there's moments of reality. Like if you step out on that summer day and go too far without water, you might die. There's kind of always this like lurking danger, which keeps us on our edge, which I think is refreshing too, keeps it real. But no, I think it's, look at all of the cultural events that are happening between the upper desert and the lower desert, high desert, low desert. We've got today, there's Desert X, there's high desert test sites. We got a posse of people going to the Bombay Beach Biennale tonight. There's so many more things. There's just tons of events, Modernism Week, like so many different opportunities to step out of your normal world and be surrounded by people that care about things that care about things that you care about. And there's just a beautiful bonding in that. Like I said, I'm looking out in this audience, seeing so many people that I know and love. And I think there's also this, we're talking about time and connections and people. I'm calling out John Simpson, who sold me back in 2003 my 5 acres for Joshua, or my 5 acres that I eventually did Lucid Stead on. And I hadn't seen John in years, and I saw him at a Yucca Valley Materials Lab fundraiser. Let's start giving him some money. I'm plugging everybody here. And I hadn't seen John in years. And the reality of it is that when John and I had that transaction of land, neither of us knew that he was changing my life forever. There's like simple shoulder bumps and connections and conversations that are very real in events like this that make lasting relationships and change positively people's lives forever. So let's all just keep going. Build it stronger.
What beautiful, sometimes funny, wonderful things you all said, and like giving all of us like a flavor of like the magic and mystery and friendship and form. And Phillip, thank you for the fear of mortality. It's real. I'm just so grateful to be with you all here, and like thank you all for the humans who are here year round, making this place a place for art to thrive. And thank you all of you who come out here even just for this. Like, you are contributing to a thing sustaining and growing. And I'm just really grateful for all of you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.